too far. A soft place too far. Yeah.
I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress. In Him will I trust.
A soft place too far. Yeah.
Surely He shall deliver thee from the snare of the fowler and from the noisome pestilence. He shall cover thee with His feathers, and under His wings shalt thou trust. His truth shall be thy shield and buckler.
A soft place too far. Yeah. A soft place too far.
Welcome to a soft place to fall, a place of restoration and rejuvenation. I'm not a preacher, I'm not a pastor, I'm not a coach, I'm not a therapist. I'm your host, Kerwin Fielding. I'm sure you'll find some rejuvenation with our guests today here at a soft place to fall. But for now, here's how I'm feeling. What's God going to say to my questions? I'm braced for the worst. I'll climb to the lookout tower and scan the horizon. I'll wait to see what God says, how He'll answer my complaint. And then God answered, write this. Write what you see. Write it in big block letters so that it can be read on the run. The vision message is a witness pointing to what's coming. It aches for the coming. It can hardly wait, and it doesn't lie. If it seems slow in coming, wait. It's on the way. It'll come right on time.
A soft place too far.
Welcome to another really exciting edition of A Soft Place to Fall. I've had to kind of change my introduction. I'd often say what I wasn't. But I have been talking with some people, and they told me to tell what God says about me. So not only am I not a preacher or pastor, okay, that's confirmed, but I am one of those word bearers, one that we sit down and we talk about how you found your soft place to fall. So if you consider it to be therapeutic, I thank God for that opportunity. Today, I am so delighted that we have an opportunity to sit down and have conversations on the couch. I think it was my grandmother that I first remember saying it, but it became kind of cliche-ish down through the years, that you don't know where you're going unless you know where you've come from. So on today, I am delighted to have a young lady that I consider to be a historian. And I say historian not because of her age, but because of the grace and the wisdom and the knowledge that had been imparted in her. And with that, I say thank you for joining me, Ms. Joan Henderson Forbes. Gotta use the whole name because they all mean so very much to us. You have given me an opportunity to find out some fascinating things that have been happening in our community and in our world. So tell everybody a little bit about who you are, where you came from, and we'll talk about how you got here.
Oh, okay. Well, I originally grew up in New Orleans, Louisiana until high school. I finished from McKinley High School.
McKinley
I am
High
a
School.
McKinley High
Alumni.
alumni. Finished in 1964, and from there I went to Grambling, but in between visits here, I learned a lot about Baton Rouge because my family lived here, the Hendersons. And then I had an opportunity to learn about South Baton Rouge and the importance of South Baton Rouge.
Yeah, that Henderson name brings volumes throughout our community. It is one that not very many people know was the cornerstone and the building blocks of some very prominent businesses and everything. We had the opportunity of meeting several years ago. You knew about me before I knew about everything
Yes, I
else,
did.
your father and my father were friends. And but you introduced me to a group of young ladies who are monumental in our community, and they're known as the nurses of North,
Four South.
Fourth South,
Four South.
Four South, which was the ward that was at the Baton Rouge General Hospital. Baton Rouge General Hospital was, of course, predominantly white back in the years, and there was only one ward where black people were allowed to come and be treated for whatever the ailment may have been. If it was something infectious, if it was something deadly, if you had got shot, stabbed, beat up, or if you were pregnant,
Yes.
you were there. And the great thing about it was, throughout that whole period, there was no cross-contamination. None reported, none recorded. But I was introduced to these ladies, and one in particular, who I called my mother, because she was the only, when I initially meeting her, I knew that there was some connection, that she had to have been there, because 1960 was the year I was born. So tell me a little bit about what you know about that whole transition and how that came to be.
Well, in 1952, Huey Long, if I'm correct, was asked by a nurse, a white nurse, was there a way to help the Negroes back then, because they were basically tired of taking care of them. So he suggested that you build a nursing school where they could train. And the school was built in 1953, which was Capital Area Trade School. And from there, the black nursing program started. Well, actually, it started at Shiloh.
The name?
The old Shiloh.
Yes.
Through Reverend Brooks. Yeah, I know everybody remember Reverend Brooks, Brooks Park, and everything. The program started as a first aid class, and from there it grew to be a part of Capital Area Trade School, which has since been torn down. We can't find records on it or anything. Pictures, nothing that school ever existed, which is sad because a lot of programs went through that school.
Yeah, and of course, we talked about Miss Catherine Jackson, but your mother was also a nurse there.
Yes, she was a nurse, one of the first black nurses. She was in this, and the diva, Miss Joseph,
Yes,
who is still living. She's 92 years old. Miss Jackson, who held you for the first time in the nursery
Isn't that amazing?
in 1960. She took care of you, and she calls you her baby.
Yes, she does. Yes, she does, and I proudly accept that honor. But and that was initially how you came to me and shared this information. And of course, I was like, oh my God! And then, of course, initially meeting her, there was this divine connection. I was like, oh, for real, for real. But your family, the Henderson family, were trendsetters and property owners and business owners. So there was a lot of rich heritage that came out of not only just South Baton Rouge, because it expanded, I would consider globally.
Baton Rouge and Scotlandville. In fact, all over the United States. They're in the Green Book.
The Green Book. I'm going to talk about the Green Book too.
Yeah, they are in the Green Book.
The Green Book.
Reverend Henderson was my grandfather. He had a church, Macedonia Baptist Church, on America Street, where your father, he started there, but then he moved on. Well, your dad knew everybody, so
Yes, he did.
you know, he was friends to everyone he met. He just loved everybody. So he became friends with my family. He knew about the whole family. It was 24 of them. And they were all entrepreneurs. They worked, some worked as maids and butlers in the daytime, and at night they ran their own businesses, which was very fruitful for all of them.
And even if you travel, like you said, there's not a whole lot of markers and a whole lot of things that let people know what's coming. But if you actually travel in South Baton Rouge, there's a sense of something powerful happened here down through the years and down through the decades, and it's that we're going to talk about the Green Book and all the other great things that we want to remember or learn about right here on the Soft Place to Fall. So we'll be back. I'm going to come back and continue this impactful conversation with my friend Joan Henderson Forbes right here on the Soft Place to Fall. Are you covered, protected, and prepared? Don't you want to ease your mind by having the confidence that when the time comes, you and your loved ones are protected and insured? It's as easy as picking up the phone and calling licensed life agent Enidra Wells, 225-936-6017. With care and compassion, Enidra will walk you through the entire process of having you and your loved ones covered, protected, and prepared. No exams, most pre-existing diagnoses are covered, no special requirements. So call today, 225-936-6017, and have the assurance of insurance.
A soft place to fall.
We're back here at a Soft Place to Fall. I'm having incredible, insightful conversation with my friend, Ms. Joan Henderson Forbes. We've mentioned something about the Green Book.
Yes, we did.
In our previous conversation, and I was fascinated to find out exactly what the Green Book was. You tell it, because you can tell it better than I can.
Oh, the Green Book was written back in the 40s. It was a travel guide for, they used to say Negro back then, and colored. And the young man from New York, he wrote this book, and he called it the Green Book. And it's just like a travel guide to visit black businesses and hotels all along the coastline, from one end of America to the next.
And not only was the Green Book a tour guide, it was actually a safe haven, because the places that were listed in it were places where, as they would call them then, Negroes, Black, African Americans now, which is what we're referred to, were safe. You knew you could go to these restaurants and these hotels and you'd be safe. Because if you went outside of what was listed in there, danger could be around you.
That's true.
So, and in particularly in Baton Rouge, there was a place called the Ever Ready that
Yes.
you know a whole lot about.
Yeah, Ever Ready Cafe, Hotel, and Cab Stand was the first black hotel here in
Cafe,
Baton Rouge.
hotel, and cab stand.
And actually it was a mini mall, because there was a photography studio in there. There was a place where you could buy, you know, your specialty items that you need, personal, and a little dress store in there. So,
Wow.
yeah, it was very convenient for everybody. You really didn't have to go out of the realm of the hotel. You would find everything there.
So tell me, well, that kind of makes me mindful that a lot of things that we're experiencing in our day and time, as far as businesses and accommodations and things of that nature, were actually visions and ideals of our people.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. So the Henderson family, you growing up, and I'm not calling you antiquated or old or anything like that, but your memory of some of those things is just extraordinary, and the people and incidents and evidence and things that took place that you had the opportunity of experiencing and remembering.
Yes. Uncle Joseph and his wife ran the hotel along with their sisters and brothers. And they attended Macedonia Baptist Church. So when they left church, they would all leave the church and walk across the street to the hotel, have something to eat, work. And I remember as a child when I would come and visit, back then, you could basically sit on top of the bar. I mean, there was no law that you couldn't, you know, be in that environment. So
how old were you when the first time you sat on top of the bar?
3, 4.
3 or 4 years old.
You know, we would go to
You said that
church.
you're experiencing all of these incredible people who became famous, and
The Clara Ward singers.
oh, wow, yes.
The Caravans. Mahalia Jackson. Louis Armstrong came through. I mean, where would they want to go? I mean, that was the only hotel there at the time, so they all visit. And I remember I was a little girl. I was visiting because my grandmother raised me in New Orleans, and the Queen, Aretha Franklin, and her dad came up. So there was no room in the inn at the hotel, so they had to stay with us, and we lived on, my dad and them had a house on the corner of Myrtle and 15th.
I know.
And that's where Aretha, her sisters, and her dad stayed. He was a very quiet gentleman. He always had his hair in, I don't know what you call it, with the waves in it.
He had a process.
Yeah. And he was sitting on the couch in his double-breasted pinstripe suit, very gentlemanly. And I mean, with me, I've always been a little person, so I would have to, Aretha was tall. To me, being 3 or 4 or 5 years old, you know, I'm looking at all them running up and down the steps because the house had steps in it. So, and we actually had fun. We enjoyed each other. So, I mean, so many entertainers came through the hotel and our homes. We always accommodated everybody. No one was ever left out. You didn't have to worry about being arrested or anything. It was just perfect. And on Sundays, I mean, you had to dress. You could not sit at the table.
You've never stopped doing.
Well, that's true. They taught me well.
They did.
You every Sunday for after church, you just like you see on TV. You dressed every Sunday. The silver was taken out. If Aretha and all of them were visiting, we all ate together.
That's amazing. I guess that's where putting on your Sunday's best came about. Not only the dress, but how you handle things in your household. When we come back, I want to find out probably one of the most memorable moments throughout this incredible life that you've lived that has kind of molded you into what's going on now.
Okay.
Right here on the Soft Place of Fall, I know you're enjoying this edition. We're talking with my friend, I'm going to call her a historian, and she's not offended by it, Joan Henderson Forbes, right here on the Soft Place of Fall.
A soft place to fall.
Hi, I'm Dr. Bridget Side, and you are watching A Soft Place to Fall right here with our very own host, Current Feelings. Oh, and don't forget, have a blessed day. God bless you all.
We're back here at A Soft Place to Fall. I'm trying to navigate my way through all of these wonderful stories and things that happened years before I was even thought about. Well, not that many years. But to find out a lot of things that took place during those times, how we've become and what they have molded us into. You talked about some of the most incredible people that you had a chance as a very young child encountering, and then to see them go on to be these great musicians and artists and actors and all of this wonderful things. How did a whole lot of what you experienced during those early years create the incredible person that you are now?
Growing up with the Henderson clan taught me proper etiquette and how to handle myself as a child and a lady. There were rules and regulations you had to follow, and I didn't mind following them because success is not success without a successor. That's the way I look at it.
And that's so true. And we look at, and I hate to say it, but a lot of our young people, the younger generation that are coming up, did not have that proper training. And we look back and say, well, why are you doing that? What's going on? And why don't you care about how you going out in public and things that they did not have the training that you had and others had to know better, to know better.
Well, I can say this. When they took the arts out of school, which arts taught discipline, I feel personally that if they put the arts and civics and other important entities back into the school system, the whole school system, there will be no kids on the street, because you have talented kids that are out on the street because they're not given the opportunity to express themselves in music, art, and basically everything else. They don't know the basic about anything, and they're not being given the opportunity to express themselves. And I think if they're given that opportunity, they will come in and feel like they are worthy. Right now, they don't feel worthy of anything. And we need to place markers in South Baton Rouge, in other areas like Scotlandville. If we put the markers, the historical markers, where they should be, they would pay more attention and realize the importance of their history and their background. And I mean, if you go down Eddie Robinson Drive, used to be 13th Street, everything is disappearing out. Dr. Smith's office, who was a entertainer slash dentist. You have the Butler Center, but then you really don't know that Dr. Butler was the first doctor, that he attended the old colored school. And the old colored school became McKinley High School, which everybody at one time attended McKinley. That was the only school they had, and they wanted to get an education. So we need to put everything back into the school system.
Which goes back to what we said at the very beginning. In order to know where you're going, you need to know where you came from.
Exactly.
So there needs to be those reminders of who we were, what we were about, what was important to us, and how did we make it through those very troublesome times? You have, and I know personally, you have quite a collection of archives and things. I ain't gonna put you out there and let everybody know everything that you got, but you have been gifted with some very, very incredible archives and articles and things of that nature.
Yes, I do. One important item that I have and I cherish is a letter that no one knew about. Dr. Baranko in 1945 had to get permission to go out of state to go to school. I have that letter, a copy of that letter.
And talking about these amazing artifacts that you have possession of, and that letter that nobody, well, everybody knows now.
Yeah.
but there are some great things that have caused you to bring awareness, and I thank you for sharing all of this wonderful information and knowledge and all of the things that you experienced down through the years, in hopes that our young and good generation will get an opportunity to find out some of the things that led them to be what they are now, or what they could possibly be in life. What would you say was the most memorable experience that you had that kind of changed and shaped everything about you?
Growing up in a caring community where it really took a village to raise a child, because everybody knew everybody.
You want to say that again? You want to say that again? Everybody thinks that's an old African proverb or something. But
Growing up into a community that really cared, where it takes a village to raise a child.
it doesn't get much clearer than that. And I know I was born in the 60s, and what everybody calls hoods now, there were neighborhoods where you knew your neighbors and you cared about what was going on with them. If you needed something, you had a neighbor that was there to make sure you had it, or you could go to them, and if they
and
didn't
if
have
you
it,
got in trouble,
oh, that's a good one.
if you got in trouble, your mama knew it before you got home, so, and your dad knew it. The neighborhood took care of the neighborhood. That was nothing known as the hood or the slums or whatever.
A ghetto.
A ghetto,
whatever
no, there was no
it.
ghetto. And your family made sure there was no ghetto.
Yes,
So we all had a nice place to stay.
Well, I am so grateful that God placed you in my life, and that we have this wonderful connection with our parents,
Yes.
and learning about what life has to offer for us if we follow the right path and do the right things and do our level best to look out for each other.
That's the most important thing. Look out. Go back to looking out for each other, taking care of each other, because we're all important. Everyone.
Every one of us. Every one of us. Well, Miss Joan Henderson Forbes, I will call you that until
That's cool.
forever. We're going to definitely have to have you come back and share more of this wonderful knowledge that you are graced with, and you deliver it with such elegance, such style, and such class. So thank you once again for coming to A Soft Place to Fall and having conversations on the couch with me, and we look forward to you coming back. Is there anything that you want to share personally with our viewers?
Love, peace, and harmony for everybody. That's good enough?
Doesn't get much better than that. All inclusive. Love, peace, and harmony. I thought she was going to say love, peace, and soul.
Oh, I got a little white.
Right
I'm
here on the
sorry.
Soft Place to Fall, we thank you, and we're ever so grateful for your presence. And joining
I
us
enjoyed
today.
it, and I enjoyed you and your staff.
We'll be back to wrap things up right here on the Soft Place to Fall.
A soft place to fall.
The Bible instructs us to be careful how we treat strangers, for many have entertained angels unaware. That brings us to one of my most favorite features of a soft place to fall. You know how when you were a kid and you did something you had no business doing and your siblings would always say, I'm going to tell on you. Pretty much the same idea. Only I'm going to tell God on you. What I do is I find people who are doing incredible things in our lives, in our communities, and just everywhere that they can sow a great seed. And I tell God on them because I want God to bless them in a very special way. I had the awesome opportunity of meeting this man several years ago. Stopped by the radio station and dropped off some very inspirational excerpts from books that he had written, a sort of diary. And I got a chance to listen to them and then to share them with our listeners. And people have been so blessed by his messages. I was talking with him and he said, I feel like I'm God's secretary. You know, whatever he says, I try and write it down and as he dictates it to me. And I thought that was pretty incredible. Then when I mentioned to him that there was something I wanted to do to shine a little light on him, he said something that I will never forget. I had never heard it before, but it is quite a unique quote. It says, I'd rather be a guide on the side than a sage on the stage. I looked it up. You do the same. Well, for that, Mr. Eugene St. Martin, I'm going to tell God on you. If you have someone you like for me to tattle on, of course you can email me at asoftplacetofall@yahoo.com and I'll be sure and tell God on them for you.
Hi, this is Jamila Pennington, and you're watching A Soft Place to Fall with Kerwin Feeling.
A soft place to fall.
We talked a whole lot about history and how things began and how they have brought us to a place where we are now. Once again, I'll remind you, I think it was my grandmother that said it, that I remember hearing, you don't know where you're going if you don't know where you've come from. I want to thank Ms. Joan Henderson Forbes for sharing all of the wisdom and knowledge and understanding about our history right here in Baton Rouge, and which extended globally. We want to thank her, and we'll be bringing her back. But in the meantime, I want you to keep pressing toward the mark of the high calling, which is in Christ Jesus. Always remember, only what you do for Christ will last. Find your soft place to fall.
A soft place to fall. A soft place to fall.